How's it going, Scrub Gamers? Welcome back to another video here at ScrubGames, and today we are back with another of our Understanding How to Build series, where we go over each of the leaders in a given set to help you understand how to build them to suit you and your playstyle. Now we have gone over all the blue, all the green, and all the red leaders, and now we're on to the yellow ones, and we've done the dark side of them, now we're on to the light side of them, starting off first with Fennec Shand. So if you're interested in learning how to build a deck Fennec Shand and want to understand how to build them to your playstyle, keep watching. Do also remember we do not offer lists in this series. We don't just give out lists. We help you with you tools and knowledge to help you build them to suit you and yourself. So with that out of the way, also don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Keeps you updated with my videos as and when they drop. And by clicking the notification bell, you can also then get alerts to when they do drop, so you can watch them there and then or at a later time that suits you best. So now that we've got that out of the way, let's go ahead and get into understanding how to build Fennec Shand. So, starting off with the main thing we like to do, and that is to cover the leader, because it's always best to understand what the leader wants to do, because some are generic and some are more themed focus, like archetype focus and stuff like that. So, understand what the leader wants to do gives you a better understanding of how to build it and how the best way to do it for you, because you don't want to be building a leader that's very a very generic way, when it's got a very theme focus. So you kind of want to understand what it does first. And for Fennec Shand, once again, we're on the yellow side of leaders, so she gives you the aspects of Cunning, being yellow, and Heroism, being white. So she gives those aspects. And we'll get into the aspects in a little bit, what they kind of mean and what they kind of give, in a little later part of the video. But also, as well as that, she gives you the traits Underworld, which has already had some kind of good stuff in set 1, but not really anything suited around it. But set 2 has got more of a focus around the Underworld trait, as it's the theme of set, Shout Out to Galaxy. Not only that, she also deploys quite early at 5 resources. So she's got Epic Action, which is her her deploy, where if you control 5 or more resources, you can deploy her, and you can only use this once a game. So once it's done, once she's out and then defeated, she goes back. You can't do it again. So you have to remember to use this wisely. And when she does deploy, remember 5 resources. That's quite early, not the earliest, but still quite early. And she comes down with 4 power and 4 health HP, so health. And she comes down with the trait Saboteur. And basically what this means is that when she attacks, she can completely ignore Sentinels. If any of your opponent's units has Sentinel in that same arena, she can ignore it. And if she attacks a unit that has shields, she defeats all the shields on that unit. So pretty nice trait. Now, her stats are not the best, but still pretty good. Because just like Iden, pretty good skills, 4 power, 4 health, means 4 power she hits pretty nicely, hits like a majority of leaders, like even Boba Fett hits for 4, but her health is where it kind of dips down, because 4 health means she's basically susceptible being taken out quite easily by some units, or even being taken out by events like Takedown. So Takedown is a card that can take out even leaders, like one of the few cards that can hit leaders, and it hits anything that's 5 or less HP, so it means you can deploy Fennec and then straight away be taken out by an event if you're unlucky to not play around it. And when it comes to her effect, she has quite a generic one that's pretty nice, and it's all around giving ambush, so kind of like a leader with ELC built in, but more restrictive. Because when she's in the leader area, the cost for it is to pay 1 and tap herself, and it allows you to play a unit that costs 4 or less from your hand and give ambush for that phase. So just like ECL, you can give something ambush, but it's a bit more restricted than ELC, being Energy Conversion Lab, because instead of being a 6 or less, it's a 4 or less for Fennec. Now you might normally be thinking when she deploys, it's going to be stronger, right? Because most leaders, when they deploy, they have a stronger version of it. Now, what is still the same? It's not too strong. The main thing you do is the whole effects is the same, but it's the cost and the action that basically change. Where on the leader area, you got to pay 1 and tap yourself. When she's in the leader area, basically you don't have to pay 1, you don't have to tap her. You just use the action, play something that costs 4 or less, and give ambush for that phase. You kind of same effect, just less of a cost. So it's still pretty nice. Still being able to give ambush to anything 4 or less means you've got some good targets, and depending on what 4 or lesses you have, you can have some pretty nice ways to kind of control board using that ambush skill. So also do remember that she does have a showcase, and remember art is subjective, so if you like it, that's fair enough, you like it. If you don't like it, fair enough, you don't like it. But it is all subjective, so it comes down to personal preference, and Fennec is one of them that isn't the best, but it's still pretty nice. Just not one of the more eye popping kind of ones that you get with some of the other showcases. But still, she has one, so if you get it, that's pretty cool. Support a showcase. Now, here comes the aspects, and remember, when you play this game, you play it with a leader and you play it with a base. And by having a base with it, you have access to 3 different aspects because the base provides you another one on top of the leader's already 2. And you always have with a leader either Heroism or you have Villainy. So you either have the white or black trait, depending on if you're the good side or bad side. And along that you have one of the color aspects. So straight away your leader will provide you 2 aspects, and with your base you'll provide that 3. So Fennec's always going to provide you with Heroism and Cunning, and depending on what base is, you can go for a different combination. So with a blue base being Vigilance, you get access to white, yellow, and blue. With a green base being Command, you get access to white, yellow, and green. With a red base being Aggression, you get access to white, yellow, and red. And if you go for a Cunning base, you get access to white and 2 Cunning symbols. And that can be beneficial because there are some cards that double aspect, and remember, each aspect only provides one of its aspect, so do bear that in mind. So if you want to play a double aspect, you need to have 2 yellow. And the reason why this is important, because in this game you can play whatever you want in your deck, or put anything you want in your deck when deck building, and then play anything you want when you actually play the game. But when it comes down to playing the cards, that's when it kind of gets a little bit technical, because not technical, but that's where like the whole aspects come in. Because when you play a card, if the aspect on the card does, as long as the aspect matches what's on your leader base, you can play it out for what it's cost. But if the aspects on the card you want to play don't match what's on your leader base, you have to pay something called the aspect penalty. And what that basically is for every aspect that doesn't match what's on your leader or base on the card you want to play, you have to pay an extra 2 per on top of that card's cost. So if, say, you were to play Fennec with a blue base being Vigilance, you'd have access to the white, yellow, and blue symbols. So if you wanted to play a blue card, a white card, a yellow card, or a card that is both white and yellow or white and blue, you can play that for its normal cost. Play it out. Good job. Just play it out normally. But if you, with that same combination, want to play a green card, because the green aspect doesn't match what's on your leader or base, you have to pay an extra 2 on top. So if that card cost is 3, it costs 5 because that green aspect doesn't match. And then same kind of thing where if you want to play a card that's both green and black, neither of those aspects match on there, and you've got 2 aspects that don't match. So 2 for each one, meaning if it's a free cost, you have to pay it in total of 7. Play that card, which normally costs 3, because 2 of the aspects don't match. Now, you do kind of want to stick to what the aspects that are normally provided by your leader and base. There are sometimes cards where you want to play them and they're kind of worth the aspect penalty, like they're worth paying the extra 2, but it depends on what the card does, what your kind of strategy is, and what you want to do. So you have to kind of work out yourself with a bit of testing and trial and error, and kind of have a look at that. And also do remember as well, like I said, with the double aspects, each aspect only provides 1. So if you had once the same combination of Fennec with a blue base, and you want to play a card that's double yellow, because Fennec provides 1 of the yellow aspects, that covers 1 of them. Because you haven't got a second yellow aspect among your leader base, you have to pay an extra 2 on top if you want to play a double aspect card like double Cunning, if you're playing not playing a Cunning base that played a different color base. So do bear that in mind when playing the cards. Now you might be thinking as well, what is the benefit to each of these aspects? And we will go over what kind of things you have access to in each aspect combination with Fennec. That could be useful and be great. But for now, you kind of want to understand what the kind of identity of each of these aspects are and what they want to do. So start off with blue, which is Vigilance. This is an aspect that wants to play defensively with the ability to heal, remove dangerous units from play, and also protect your base from enemy attacks. Now, this is an aspect that is perfect for anybody who likes a patient play style and also wants to play a very grindy game. So if that kind of sounds like you, that could be a way to approach this, way to build Fennec, go with blue. And then you got Command being the green one. So this aspect is all about ramping. Because what it wants to do is accelerate your resources, so build up your resources quickly, to call upon lots of units or strengthen the ones you already have in play. And this is an aspect that's perfect for anybody who wants to play a kind of overwhelming play style to kind of overwhelm your opponent with a massive board presence and ramp up your resources quickly. So if that kind of sounds like what you want to do, then green could be a very nice aspect for you to go with Fennec, and it's a very good combination in total. And then you got the red one, which is Aggression, which basically the name is what it wants to do. It's very aggressive aspect. It's all about damage, and what it wants to do is attack with maximum efficiency and dish out loads of damage, be it to units or to base. And this is an aspect that's a perfect fit for anybody who prefers fast-paced games and likes to play with a fiery playstyle that's break through your opponent's defenses and just hurl damage at your opponent until you achieve victory. So if you like a very aggressive kind of playstyle, red could be the good one for you, or Aggression. And then we come down to Cunning, so the aspect that Fennec has herself, and one you could also go with a base well to go with a double. Now, Cunning is a really nice one of my favorite ones as well. because what it wants to do is allow you to adapt to any situation on the fly with powerful immediate effects, and you have lots of tools for disrupting your opponent's game plan. Now, this is an aspect that is absolutely perfect for players who want to respond quickly to threats or to anything your opponent plays, and have an immediate answer to anything your opponent might throw at you. So if that's the kind of way you want to play, very like Swiss Army Knife, have access to anything, and very controlling, then a Cunning could be a very good one for you. And that's already built into the lead, but you can also go for a second aspect of it to kind of go the double route. Now, before we do actually go into the aspects, what we want to do first want to do is go over the ratios, because it is a good idea to kind of understand how many of each card you want to play, because in this game you can play up to 3 copies of a card. I mean, you can either play a card at 1, 2, or 3 copies, and there are benefits each. Now, typically, 3 copies of a card are cards you want to see as early as possible, or as many as possible early to kind of play. So those are typically things that you want to play in the early turns, where you can play first turn and have a turn 1 play, because you start off with 2 resources on your first turn. So things like Sabine be quite good. Because a very early card to play, you can play it as early as turn 2, very good stats, very good effect, and it's something you might want to see as early as possible to play out. And then we got 2 copies of card, and normally cards you want in more in the late game than the early game, and they're cards you don't really want to clog up your hand, because you normally don't want to have multiple of these early in the game or see multiple at a time. You only want to see them at later game where you could actually play them. And normally 2 copies means you're going to see them less early and more likely in the late game. Because even if you do see them early, you're either keeping them in your hand, which means you've got less options for early turns, considering you've got only a few cards in your hand for the early turns, like what you have in your hand matters. And if you don't want to keep hold of them and have that reduced amount of options, you can always resource them. But then unless the cards got smuggle, if you resource them, you're not really going to have access to them again. So you're going to lose access to them and lose that card and not see it in the late game. So you might have some things at 2 copies, so you got where you kind of don't see them too early, can't see them late game, and you can actually use them. And in 1 copy of a card is normally the tech choices, so like tech options. And these are normally cards that you play as a one-off, because they could be very good in very, very niche situations, like situations that come up 1 out of 10 times. And they're great because when the situation pops up, you've got it, great, you can basically use it and basically benefit from the situation. But usually for like very niche situations that you don't really want to side them for, or they don't really come up and they're not worth side decking, but you can take 1 just in case. Because then if it comes up with a situation where it's not usable or not great, which is going to be most of the time, if you don't see it, you don't care. And if you do see it, you can always resource it, because then that's an easy resource target from your hand. So hopefully that's helped you understand when you would want to have 3, 2, or 1 copies of a card. And now we can get into what each aspect combination gives you and what the benefits are. So to start off with the double aspect. So before we get into like what the double aspects are and what the aspects do, we'll get into the bases, because each aspect gives you access to 2 different types of bases. So with set 1, we had both a rare base and 2 common bases that had different stats. And in the second set, we didn't get any new rare bases, so there's nothing new for that, but we did get some more common bases with 30 health. So essentially for each aspect, currently for set 2, the options are either a 30 health base with no effect, so maximum amount of health on your base, but no additional, like, beneficial or different effect. Or there's the rare bases, which give you 25 health, so 5 less health than a normal base, but a loss of that 5 health give you an epic action. So similar to how with the deploying leader, it's effects you can use only once a game. And for the epic action for double Cunning, for Cunning, it's on Jealousy, which is not the great one, but the epic action is give a non-leader unit -4 power for this phase. Now you notice with each of the rare bases, the epic action on them does not affect the leader, so it's not going to affect the leader anyway. But it does give you some nice ones, and yellow is probably the worst of them currently in this at the moment. Like, it could be useful, but it's not the best compared to the rest. But then you can always make something a little bit weaker, so you can attack into it and take less damage back, or make it weaker so you don't have to worry about it threatening anything in that turn. Now with the double aspect, this is one where you kind of lessen your card pool. Because already from set 1, when we had, because we had set 1 as well, we had a set 1 meta, and in that meta, or for set 1, it was for double aspect, it gave you a very limited card pool. Because if you think about it, if you were for a yellow with like Fennec with a blue base, like if you access to all the yellow cards and all the blue cards. But if you go double aspect, you're losing a whole other aspect of cards, a whole like pool of cards, just to have access to these the first 3 double colorless cards. So you are losing a whole access to a different color to have access to 3 powerful cards. Now for set 1, double Cunning was the best double aspect, so it's kind of worth it for the majority. But in set 1, only like 1 of each leader kind of benefited from having double aspect. But now with a second set, we've got double everything. So now the double aspects are now more of a better option for all leaders. Then we've got a bigger card pool and can be even better. And with set 1, like I said, double cunning was probably the best way, the best double aspect in the game, and even now set 2 is probably the best double aspect because it had all 3 of its kinds in set 1 were absolutely usable, absolutely fantastic. And with the next second set, it got some more, but unfortunately only got 2. Well, it did kind of get 3, but it's only truly got 2 double aspect cards. There's one that's more like involved in smuggling, but it's not not really viable to every single deck, just more like 1 or 2. So for set 1, you had access to Bodhi Rook, being a very nice free cost unit. It's a pretty good stats for its cost. Free cost, free. Very strong effect as well, because when it's played, you look at your opponent's hand, get a hand knowledge, and make them discard a non-leader unit of your choice. So you can either get rid of an event or an upgrade from the hand. And it was nice because it gave you hand knowledge and also ripped out cards they might need, like things like resupply, which is basically crucial for ramp decks to get a ramp, or like some upgrades that your opponent didn't want to have. Or you didn't want your opponent to have, but they kind of want to keep. Then you also had access to things like Cantina Bouncer, being a 5-cost 3/5, so not the best stats, but it had a great effect, because when it's played, you can return a non-leader unit back to its owner's hand, so it could be one of your opponent's units or one of your units. So you can either set your opponent back a turn, because typically when you play a card, unless otherwise stated, it comes in rested, so you've got to wait a turn to attack or maybe use some effects. So Cantina Bouncer can let you put it back in your opponent's hand, so you can set them back a whole turn, because they could have spent their whole turn playing that card, you pop it back, and now you've got to spend the next turn basically playing that card out as well. Or you can bounce it back one of your cards, so that way you can bring something back to your hand so you can replay it out to get those when played abilities, which is quite nice. And then you had Cunning. So every color, every aspect had one of these double cunning, double aspect cards, being a 4-cost event that was named after the aspect it was for, and it gave you 4 options. You could use any 2 of them and resolve them in any order. And Cunning was the best one because all 4 of its options were fantastic, because you either got to return a non-leader unit with 4 less power to its owner's hand, so kind of a more restrictive version of a Cantina Bouncer's one, but still we know how good that is. That's a really nice effect. Or you can give a unit plus 4 power for this phase, so you can power up something massively. 4 power is a good difference, so you can either take out something that you normally wouldn't be able to take out before at like a huge amount of health, or make something stronger so it can hit harder your opponent's base. You can exhaust up to 2 units, which gave you a great amount of control, tapping things down so the opponent can't attack with them or really use them. And then the last one, which gave for yellow a very nice way of like having a hand control identity, is making your opponent discard a random card from the hand. And because it's a random one, your opponent doesn't get to choose and just pick the worst card in the hand and discard it. It's a random, so they have to shuffle the hand and then pick a card at random to lose. So all very nice cards. And with set 2, you've got some more cards, only 2 new ones. They're pretty nice as well. They're both events. So you've got the 2-cost new adventure. This one's quite nice because it allows you to return a non-leader unit that costs 6 or less to its owner's hand. Then that owner may then play out the card for free. So you might be thinking, what is the point of that? Because you just bounce it back. It's not going to be good against your opponent's stuff because they're playing it back out for free. And like, why would you want to play your stuff back out and out again? Well, you've got some things like Fett's Fire Spray, which is a nice little unit where if you control Boba Fett as either a leader or a unit, then you get to ready it. So it means you can attack with it straight away, and then you can basically attack with it if you're on board, play a new adventure, bounce back to your hand, play it back out, and ready yourself again if you're playing Boba as a leader unit, and then attack again, which could be very nice, playing it back out to get some more damage in for cheap. Or you could basically use it to trigger some more cards that have 1-play abilities by using it again. So like with Bodhi, attack with it, then use new adventure to put it back in your hand, play it back out again. You basically played out Bodhi, rather than play out a second Bodhi and lose the first one. You basically bounce it back out and in again, even for cheaper than its normal cost, and then trigger its 1 played, which is great. So very nice card there. And then you got Final Showdown, so never legendary double aspect one, just like Cunning. And this one's a really nice one. It makes it so if you're playing double Cunning now, you got to watch out because if you take the initiative, they got 6 more resources on, and they've got enough damage, units on base that have enough damage to finish you, then you're going to be basically giving them the win. Because this is a 6-cost event that, an effect is allows you to ready each unit you control. So ready everything, ready all your units. But at the end of the turn, you lose the game. Now, it doesn't matter if you lose the game at the end, if you can finish off that game, and that's normally when you're going to be using it, is making sure you use it when you've got enough damage on to ready everything, attack, and finish off the game before it comes to that point when you lose. So a very nice card there, and that's what you basically give up a whole color for to do this. They have these cards, but then with a second card pool, get access to more yellow cards, so it's even more worthwhile. And if it was strong in set 1, it's going to be even stronger now. So that's an option. So moving on to the next aspect, and this one is Vigilance, so a pretty nice one. So this gives you a rare base of Security Complex, and this epic action is giving a shield token to a non-leader unit. So unfortunately you can't give it to Fennec to kind of protect it that way, but you can give it to one of your other units. The nice thing is you potentially give it to one of your sentinels to kind of protect Fennec from being attacked. But then you've got some really nice units you can play out with it as well. You've got some nice ones, because remember, Vigilance is all about like healing and protecting and like removing things as well. And you got nice ones in like Restored Arc and Yoda, which have Restore. So when they attack, they heal damage from your base equal to the number in that. So Restore 1 for Restored Arc and Restore 2 for Yoda. So they come down for pretty nice stats. A 2 cost 2 free, and then Yoda being a 2 free cost 2 4. And Yoda even has an additional effect where when defeated, you can choose any number of players, and they each draw a card. Now remember, in a match, you are also one of the players, so you can always not choose your opponent, but choose yourself, and draw a card. So Yoda basically replaces himself when he's defeated, which is nice. Then you got some really nice 4-cost ones as well. That you got Kanan, Jarvis, and Rose, very nice ones. Kanan's pretty cool. 4-cost 4/5, so pretty solid stats. And when he's attacked, which will trigger on ambush, you can discard a card from your opponent's deck, or top of your opponent's deck for each Spectre you control. So at least one, because Kanan is a Spectre himself. And then you heal 1 damage from your base for each different aspect on the cards you discarded. So if you hit 1 aspect on a card, that's 1 health. If you hit a double aspect card, it's like a card that has like either like one of the coloured ones and one of the light or dark aspects, that's 2 from your base. It's pretty nice there. So a bit of healing plus pretty good stats. Then you got Rose, and she can hit pretty hard and tank quite hard as well. Because she's a 4-cost 2/6, which doesn't seem great, but she comes as shielded, so she comes as protected. But she has 1 attack where you can defeat a shield token, which she has. So if you're ambushing, you're going to go right ambush, like ambush attack, and then on attack defeat your own shield, and then give it 2 experience to a token, or 2 experience tokens to that unit. So essentially, she can come in ambush attack, sack off her own shield, give herself 2 experience. She goes from a 2/6 to a 4/8, which is a good amount of health and a good amount of damage and 4 damage as well. And you even got Mystic Reflection, be a nice way to kind of like reduce the power of stuff, so that way you can make it so you can take less damage back or make it easier to kill things. Because it's a 1-cost event, Mystic Reflection gives an enemy unit -2 power for that phase. And if you get a benefit of having a force unit, which you have a fair few in the light side of blue, being like Yoda and Kanan on ones, you can then give the enemy unit -2 power and 2 health for that phase as well. It's pretty nice cards there. And there is also the non-dark side or non-light side of blue as well. So you have some pretty nice cards, that you have some pretty nice units like Wilshire Tree Tender and Embo, being very nice units for their cost. They're like both free cost. Wilshire Tree Tender is a 2/4 but has grit, so the more damage it takes, the stronger it gets. So it gets a benefit like if it attacks and survives, it's then stronger for the next one. And then Embo being very nice, very good stats for its cost, being free cost 3/4. And when it completes an attack, so when it attacks and survives, basically attacks and lives, if the defender was defeated, you heal 2 damage from a unit, be it itself or never one. Now, you don't have to worry about taking damage from ambush, because you can always heal it off with Convert Strength. And it's a nice one because it's a 1-cost event that can be smuggled in, so you can have a resource and play out later with smuggle. And it allows you to heal 2 damage from a unit and give an experience token. So technically, healing it by 3, because you take 2 health off and then give it experience token, so it kind of raises up. So it gets back like 3 health. Because it gets that experience token, which gives an extra 1/1 to its stats and heals 2 damage off. And also, blue is notorious for having a load of like events that just basically allow you to take out units instantly, but they range for different costs and different effects. So you got Takedown, which we basically said about before. There's a 4-cost event that allows you to defeat any unit, being a leader unit or a normal unit, with 5 or less from HP. It's a great one to kind of take out some leaders as well. And then you got Rivals 4, which is a little bit more expensive, like in 6, but allows you to defeat absolutely any unit, even a leader, no matter what. So a very great card. So if you like blue and like a bit of like healing, very defensive playstyle, then blue could be a very good one for you to have with Fennec. Then we go on to green, and this is probably one of the most overpowered bases in the game currently with Energy Corrosion Lamp, and it's kind of a different, never version of Fennec's effect. Because its epic action is play a unit that costs 6 or less from your hand. Still, also, just like Fennec and itself, you got to pay the cost for the card, you're not paying for free, and then you give it ambush for that phase. And if you didn't really know, because I don't think I explained it already, ambush is a skill which normally when you play a card, you play out rested, you've got to be your turn to be able to attack and stuff. But ambush lets you, when you play a unit, you can then ready it straight away and attack one of your opponent's units, not base units, and attack into it straight away. So you kind of allows you to attack opponent's unit the same turn as play, which can be very handy, and it's kind of the main reason to play Fennec. And this just allows you to do it on like a bigger playstyle where instead of being restricted to 4 or less, you can have restricted to like 6 or less, which is a little bit more lenient there. But in the light side of green, you got some pretty nice effects. Like you got some pretty good, nice units in Battlefield Marine, being a 2-cost 3/3, solid stats, no skill but solid stats for its cost. And then Sundari Peacekeeper. Now this is one that's nice because you might look at it and think it's pretty weak. 1 power and 5 health isn't the best, but it's quite cheap on the free cost, and also it has 2 skills, and those are Raid 2 and Restore 2. So we've already gone over Restore 2, being when it attacks, it heals that much damage from your base, so healing 2 from your base, but we also got Raid. This is one where when you attack, you do that much you gain that much power on attack as what's in the skill. So Raid 2 means when you attack, you gain an extra 2 power. So technically, while he's being attacked, he hits back 1. When he attacks for free, which is pretty nice. Then you also have some nice space units like Bright Hope, being like a nice little sentinel to kind of protect you from that way. Have some nice bulk and a little bit of damage, and have a nice little beneficial effect. Being one played, you may return a friendly non-leader unit, ground unit to your hand, and then if you do draw a card. Now, this could be very useful because if you do ambush sign, you take damage. You're not going to take no damage back unless you're Han, but you can attack, take something out, and take some damage back, and you'll be wounded. So basically, you'll be close to being defeated by taking a little bit of damage, then you're out. But Bright Hope could basically allow you to kind of reset that card by bringing out Bright Hope, bouncing back the ground unit, so it's back safe in your hands. You can play it out again at full strength and full health, and then also draw a card to kind of gain more gain more options. You also got some nice events like the light side of green also now does have a card the ramp. Before with set 1, you had a card the ramp in the dark side of green, double green, and just normal green. But now on the light side of green, you now have a ramp card, and it's a bit cheaper than the others, but it's more restrictive. Like the other ones, you can just play them on their own, like standalone, and can ramp you. Spark of Hope requires some other things to kind of help you ramp, because it's a 2-cost event, and it allows you to choose the unit in your discard pile, and if it was defeated this phase, you can put it to play as resource. Now typically, when you're ambushing, you're normally either taking out a unit or like trading, and if you're trading, then that unit's been defeated, and you can then use Spark of Hope to put that. Then I think, as long as you got the extra 2 resources to play, you can play that unit out play that unit in your resources is extra, so you've ramped up. Now, if it does survive, then at least that's a unit that's close to death. So next turn, if it's still there, you can always ram into one of your opponent's units to take him out, or do good amount of damage to it, and then use Spark to kind of ramp it, so you can still use it that way. So while it requires more outside other cards to kind of like function as a ramp, it's still a good one and quite cheap one at that. And then you have one of the more powerful events in the game, being U-Wing Reinforcement. Very nice one, very hefty at 7, but it allows you to look at the top 10 cards of your deck and play up to any 3 units with a combined cost of 7 or less and play them each for free, which means you can either get one big 7 or less cost card, or you can get multiple lower cost cards up to the maximum of 3, and they've got to be up to the combined cost of 7. Or 7 or less. So you can either get like a big 7 cost, 6 and a 1, 3 and a 4, 2 and a 5, or like a 2 2s and a 3. You can kind of mix and match there. But it's always got to count up to 7 maximum, and it only up to 3 maximum, so you can't get like 7 1-drops. That'd be crazy if you could. But yeah, that's what you offer. And then on the non-light side of green, you've got access to a pretty nice one. You've got Cobb Vamp, which is a pretty nice one to smuggle in, because it's one of those ones that can kind of keep a unit on board, and because it's got a nice one defeated effect. So it's a free cost, 3/2, not the greatest stats, but when defeated, you can look at the top 10 cards of your deck, and then you can find a unit that costs 2 or less among them, and discard it. And then, for this whole phase, you can play that card from your discard pile for free. So essentially, you're ambushing this in or trying to take something out of it, doing a good amount of damage for free, and then after that, you can then look at top 10 cards, find a 2-cost, dump it to your discard, and then play it out for free at any point during that turn to kind of keep a unit on board where you're taking something out of your opponent. It's pretty nice there. And also you've got some other nice units at free cost as well, being like Reputable Hunter, a free cost 3/4 that can become cheaper if you go for the bounty route. Because if your opponent has a card with a bounty on, you can play it out for 1 less, so you can play it out for a 2-cost, which is pretty nice. And you got Consortium Star Viper, which is a free cost 3/3, pretty good stats. And while you have the initiative, when it attacks, it gains Restore 2, so when it attacks, it heals 2 from your base. You also got nice upgrades and events. You got a Traitorous here, being a very nice upgrade. Actually, take one of your opponent's cheaper units to kind of use it against you. Now, it does cost a weapon 5 and can only hit very specific cards like cost 3 or less to take control of. But still, taking some of your opponents, like if your opponent starts boosting up one of a lower costing units, you can just steal that and that's not yours. Or if your opponent just has a unit out and you don't want them to have it and want to use them against them, you can always grab that as well. A very nice one to deal with like aggro when you start playing out those cheap units. Grab one back and start slamming it back to see how they like it. Then you even have like extra ramp as one resupply it. Just a simple event, free cost. When you play it, you put it to play as a resource. Simple as. But that is green, so if you like a very open one playstyle and some pretty nice kind of units to bring out with Fennec, green could be a nice one for you to go for, and also ramp up the kind of play out, like ambush in the early game and then play out the big things later on. Now for the last aspect we have is aggression, and this is a nice one that has a lot of good stuff in the light side and very cheap ones to go for a very aggro route with Fennec, because you got some nice cheap units in like 2 costs, like for both arenas, being like Sabine and Green Sorcerer A-Wing, and even some nice like more expensive ones and more high costing that Fennec can still bring out at 4 costs, like K2SO and Valiant's Assault Ship. Now, not only that, you have the rare base being for aggression, being Tarkatan. Now, this is one that is pretty nice, but not as great as it would be, but it'd be a bit more busted if it was a little bit better. Because what it wants to do is deal 3 damage to a damaged non-leader unit. So it's again, like all the rare bases, you can't really affect leaders with it. But it's also one that doesn't just throw out 3 damage willy-nilly. It's got to be on a damage leader. And the benefit of that is if you're trying to take out a unit, so like you ambush and you don't quite take out the unit, you can always use Tarkatan to kind of finish the job if you just fall short. So it's nice in that respect. Now units, like I said, you got some pretty cheap ones like Sabine and Green Sorcerer A-Wing. Very nice ones you can drop out early as turn 1, or even ambush out early with Fennec. And a pretty nice one because they both do like quite a bit of damage, because Sabine Ren, 2-3. If you've got 3 or more aspects among the other units on your board, be it space and or ground, she can't be attacked, so you can be like unable to attack her, which is quite nice. And once she attacks, you can either deal damage to once she's attacking or to your opponent's base. Kind of, she can swing for 3, or swing 2 at something and then 1 to base. And in Green Sorcerer A-Wing, it's got raid 1, so when it's being attacked into, it only does 1 damage back, but when it's attacking, it swings for 3 damage, which is pretty nice. And you got some nice other units like K2SO and Valiant Assault Ship. K2SO being a very nice unit, 4 cost 4/4, very good overwhelm as well, so any excess damage it does to a unit when defeating it goes to your opponent's base. And if it's defeated, for each opponent you can choose either to deal 3 damage to their base or make him discard a card from hand. So you can either go for a hand control route with that, or do more damage at base if you want to go for an aggressive route. A very nice versatile card and one of the best rares from the set 1. And you got Valiant Assault Ship being 1 for set 2. This is a 4 cost 3/4 space unit. It has Saboteur, so you can ignore shields and or sentinels as well. And if you're on the back foot and your opponent has more resources, then on attack, if the defending player controls more resources than you, it gains an extra 2 power, so it can swing for 5 power if you're behind on resources, which is very nice. If you're equal resources, you get nothing, but if your opponent has more than you, you get more benefit. And you even have nice events like Verticals of Leaving, a nice way to kind of do more damage without needing to attack and stuff and kind of finish off the game. Because it's a 3 cost event that allows you to reveal the top 4 cards of your deck. And for each heroic card you reveal this way, so if you go for a heavy heroic card and get more benefit, you deal 1 damage for each heroic unit revealed from that way. Then you can discard any number of units from that top 4 you want, or any of those 4 cards you want that you can discard them. And then any ones you leave there, you can put them back on top of your deck in any order. So you can kind of rearrange the top 4, ditching any ones you don't like, and set up yourself nicely for the next turn. And in the non-light side of red, you also got some very nice units. Like you've got things like Stolen Landspeeder, Patissi Insurgent, and Hunter Nexus for pretty nice units. And Stolen Landspeeder is quite a nice one. It's quite a weird one because when you play it, it's got when played. When you play it, when you play this unit from your hand, your opponent takes control of it. So the main thing you want to do for this is ambush it first. Well, use it with Fennec to ambush it, because when you play it, you can trigger which one in what order you want. So you can choose to do an ambush first, and then the when played effect is give it to your opponent. So you can use an ambush first, push him, and if you don't kill the card, say it only does 1 damage, you can take out the unit and then give it to your opponent, and then it's damaged. So next turn, you can ambush something else to take it out and then get it back on your board by claiming the bounty, which is, if you own this unit, which you would do, you play it from your discard and give it an experience token, making it then from a 3/2 to a 4/3. So you can always, so you're either going to take out something for cheap, because you can do this as early as turn 1, you can ambush something in, because it's a 1 cost, and swing for 3 is normally going to take out something early in its first turn. Or you're going to survive the damage, your opponent's going to survive the damage, or it's going to survive the damage done to your opponent, take out your opponent's unit, survive yours, give it to your opponent, and then you can just finish it off next turn with an ambush or something like that, and gain it back stronger to your board. Now you've also got things like Patissi Insurgent and Hunter Nexus, which are quite nice ones. They're different costing, but they both have the same effect, and that effect is where you control never a red unit. you control, well, what this unit gains extra raid 2, meaning when it attacks it gains 2 more power. Now Persistent Insurgent come out a little bit earlier at 2 cost, but then is a 1/4, where something next to is a 4 cost is 4/4. So kind of different powers, but same kind of effect. And you got some nice upgrades and events as well. Like you got the Hotshot Blaster being a very nice one that you don't even need to play aggression with. You don't even need to play aggression with Hotshot Blaster. You can still play it in any aspect combination and don't have to play red, because if you smuggle it in, which is what you can do instead, the smuggle aspect is different than what its actual aspect is, because the card is a red card, so red aspect with 1 cost. But if you smuggle it, it's a free cost that requires the Cunning aspect, which Fennec is. So you can always play this in no matter what aspect combination, and then always use it, resource it, and use it later on the turn to kind of push through more damage and get some like surprise damage as well. Because it's a 1 cost upgrade, it gives you 2 more power to that unit. But if you smuggle it in, it's got 1 played using smuggle, attack with the attached unit. So normally you would have to equip it for 1 action, then a second action, or a next action after, be able to attack with it. But if you smuggle it in, you can do all that in 1 action, which is kind of nice. It can finish off some games. And you also got some nice kind of like aggression is a very nice way with Cunning to go for a nice hand control route, because you got things as well like Pillage being a 4 cost event that makes you choose a pet opponent, and that player may that they discard 2 cards from the hand. So you can basically use it on your opponent, make it discard 2 cards, and that goes very well with some of the cards, ever discard cards you've got in red and yellow, and kind of over with like Fennec being able to the control board by ambushing stuff in, and using Pillage to kind of limit your opponent's options by making them discard cards. So if you want to go for a more aggressive route, even want to go for a hand control route, I'd say the red side of Cunning for Fennec is probably the best way to go. So that is it for red, and also you have some pretty nice units in the heroic side and non-aspect cards, because there are cards that don't have aspects, and you got some pretty nice ones for Fennec. And remember, because you can ambush up to 4 costs, you got some pretty nice ones. Like you got things like Fleet Lieutenant and Wing Leader being nice ones that kind of let you give a benefit to whenever a unit, either by letting it attack or by giving it more experience. Like Fleet Lieutenant is a 3 cost 3/3, it's pretty nice stats, and when played you can attack with another unit, but then if it's a rebel unit, it gets +2 for that attack. So you can make this ambush, take out a unit and attack with another unit, and do a lot of stuff in very few actions, which is pretty cool. Or you can like Wing a Leader, where you can kind of ambush in, do the when played, give 2 experience tokens to a friendly rebel unit, and then ambush and attack something that kind of, because even though it's weak at 1 health, it can still throw some damage at and then boost something else as well. You even got Grace Watch and Y-Wing, which is a nice one, where you can, for 1, it's a 2 cost, very cheap, but 1 free power is not the best stats, but when it attacks, your opponent either chooses the unit they control, or a base, or either a unit or base they control, and they deal 2 damage to it. So you can ambush it in, and they got to think, did they take 2 damage and this potentially take it out? Or do they do 2 damage to the base instead, and then take less damage to the unit and survive a bit? Then you also got the non-aspect cards like Mercenary Gunship, being a nice space unit, it's pretty strong, 2 cost 3/2, and has an action that during the game you can pay, either player can pay for to take control of it, and either player can use that effect. Not only that, but you also got the Mandalorian Warrior, which is a nice way if you want to go Mandalorian route, because like Fleet Lieutenant, it's a 3 cost 3/3, but when played you can give an experience token to another Mandalorian, so you can come in and ambush. One play, give an experience token to another Mandalorian, it can't give it to itself, but another one, and then ambush so I can take something out, while also boosting up something else. Now you might be thinking, what does Fennec give to herself? What does she give from her own aspects? Like, what does she give from the light side of yellow and just yellow in general? Well, we're going to go over that, because some pretty nice cards she can give. Like, she even got like a nice turn 1 chopper, which you can ambush in turn 1. Mostly it will survive because it's a 1/3, so not the best power, but some good health. And it's mainly there as like a nice one to kind of control your opponent's resources. When it attacks, you make your opponent discard top card of the deck, it's often like a slight bit of mill. And then if it's an event, then you make your opponent exhaust one of their resources. If you go like more control decks, well, if they got a unit on board, like ambush, but even then, even if you're not ambushing, be able to attack and make your opponent mill top card of the deck. And if it's an event, attack one of the resources down could be very helpful, because it can hold off from them playing less on curve and not get as much use out of the resources. You also got some nice ones that ambush in with like Rogue Operative and Principal Outlaw, because they both offer some nice effects. Because Rogue Operative is a 3 cost 2/4, but has Saboteur, so if it attacks to a unit, it gets rid of all their shields. So you can ambush something that has shields, Saboteur take it out, and they just do the damage straight to it. And it even has raid 2, so when it attacks, it's attacking for 4, not 2, which is even better, especially on a 3 cost. And in principle, Outlaw is quite nice, a 4-cost 4/4. You can smuggle this in later, but the smuggle costs a lot more expensive. But it's got a nice on attack, allowing you to exhaust that ground unit. So you can ambush this in, and then attack something, rest something else, and kind of maybe stop 2 attacks in one, because you're ambushing to take out one, and then tapping another one using its on attack effect. You even have some really nice events as well. You got Spack Rebellion being a nice turn 1/1 you can play, and it's very good for even a more hand control route with red, because it's just a 2-cost. Look at your opponent's hand, ditch a card of your choice from it. So you don't get to establish anything in board, play anything out, but you do get look at your opponent's hand, have that hand knowledge, and rip out whatever card you don't want to have from the hand, and you don't want to replace it. They just lose that card. Then you also got Let the Wookiee Win. Now this is one that I've seen someone or maybe some people say it's not great, but this is actually a really nice card because it's a very cheap event at 2 cost, and it gives your opponent 2 tough choices. And when played right, you can get a huge benefit from this because your opponent either lets you have 6 resources back, so that your opponent lets you untap 6 resources to play more things or make use of your more energy, or they let you ready a unit, and if it's a Wookiee, you can attack with it straight away and it gets 2+ power, but usually you're just resetting a unit. Now you got to think about it, because either they're giving you 6 resources to play more things, or even smuggle things out, play more things from hand, and making use of more resources than you would have. So essentially pay 2 to get 6 energy back. Or they're letting you for 2 resources restand any one of your units, and if they're close to game, and one of your units has enough power to end the game, they don't want to be doing that, so they might be in a tough choice where they don't want to give you 6 resources, but they don't want you to restand a unit and kill them with, so you can kind of get a huge benefit from that. And in the non-light side of Cunning as well, you got some pretty nice units. You got like Greedo, Pirate Starfire, and Strafing Gunship. It's pretty nice units. All ones you can smuggle out with Fennec. Greedo is nice because it's a very strong unit for its cost, via a 1-cost 3/1. But when it's defeated, which it most likely do, even when it's ambushed in, you can mill the top card of your deck. And if it's not a unit, so an event or an upgrade, you can deal 2 damage to a ground unit. It's pretty nice. And just remember as well, like we said, sometimes you'll ambush cards out, take a card out, but then the card you ambushed in is then damaged and close to being defeated. So you might want to either want to have it back to hand so you can replay it out, or hope it survives, so it kind of stays there a little bit longer. But you got something nice in Pirate Starfighter, and this is a 2-cost 2/4. Has raid once when it attacks, it swings 3 instead of 2, and has a when played where you have to return a friendly non-needed unit to his owner's hand. So you can't just play this out with nothing on board because it bounces itself. But if you've ambushed something in and ambush something and it's still there from the previous turn, you can always attack with it to a base, hoping your opponent will have to attack into it and lose their unit attacking into it. Or play this out or ambush this out so you can then basically ambush something and then make use of its when played to kind of bounce the other unit back in so you can play it out again next turn or at the same time that turn. And also you've got Strafing Gunship. This is a very unique unit because it's a space unit. 3-cost 4/3, so not the best stats to its cost, but still pretty decent. But it's one that breaks the game because of how the rules work. Because in this game, if you want to attack things, only ground can attack ground, and only space can attack space. So you can only attack your opponent's space units with your space units, and only the ground units with your ground units. But Strafing Gunship breaks those rules because it's got an effect that allows it to attack units in the ground arena. So you can attack ground unit arenas with this card from space. I mean, you can attack them, but they can't attack you back. And when it does attack a card in the ground arena, that ground arena unit gains -2 power. So you attack something in the ground arena, it's weaker than it normally is, and you can take it out and take less damage, and they can't attack it back because it's a different arena. So that's one nice little card you can have in, and even ambush things that are in the ground unit using this as well as something your opponent might not expect, and then they have to play a space unit to kind of deal with it. You also got some very nice events, and upgrades as well. So you got Jetpack being a very nice one you can even smuggle in later. And it's pretty good to go with Fennec because it gives a bit more power. So it's a 2-cost upgrade that gives 2 more power. But it's got nice when played being you give a shield token to that unit that you put on. But at the start of the reroute phase, at the end of the turn, you lose that shield. So if you don't use the shield, you're going to lose it either way. So you might as well make use of it. So it's a great card if you want to take out your opponent's unit, but kind of let your unit survive. You can chuck it on any unit that's not a vehicle, so like Fennec herself. Give it 2 more power and then attack and take out opponent's unit. So you'll lose a shield, they'll use a unit or take 6 or something damage, and then you've got the ready unit. You've made use of the shield, so you're not going to lose it for nothing, and then your unit's a bit stronger as well. So that's quite nice. You even got McClunky as well. Another way to kind of make use of those cards, like you ambush out and begin back to hand, so you can ambush them out again or use them again. Because if they do survive and then are damaged and close to death, you can always use McClunky, which is a 1-cost event. That allows you to return a non-leader underworld unit back to Zona's hand. So it's got to be an underworld unit, but there's a load of them as well, especially in yellow. A load of them out now. And if you do, you deal 3 damage to a unit. So not only do you get back a unit back, so you can ambush it again or make use of it again, play it out. You can also deal 3 damage to either finish like you might not have taken out, or then basically put some more damage on so you can ambush and take it out with another unit. It's a very nice kind of synergy there. And that is it for Fennec. So that is all the different kind of things you can have a unit, all the different benefits for each different aspect. If that's helped you. And that is it for the video. So hopefully that's helped you understand how to build Fennec. And if you're interested in any of the other ones, the next one we're going to have, and the last one in this set, not the last one over because we still got starter deck ones to go over, but the next one we have is understand how to build Lando. So if you're interested in Lando, stay tuned for that. Otherwise, that's it for me, and I'll catch you in the next one. Bye for now.